Good morning. It's Chris Fluger here again for another We Wonder. I am your Chief Development Officer here at We Insure, and today we were talking about something that most people don't offer, right? And we're talking about having access to commercial within your agency that's blended in with everything else that's PNC, right? So when you work with We Insure, you have access to so many different carriers out there, but there's some specialty areas that we want to talk about. So today we have a very special guest, Connor O'Leary, the president of Shelley, Middlebrooks, and O'Leary. And you are an MGA, is that correct?
We are. We're an MGA wholesaler. And so we're a managing general agent. We focus on niche program business. And one of our largest niches is commercial auto or transportation business.
You know, and that comes up a lot, not only in the state of Florida, but all across the United States, right? And so I know you guys, your coverage area is pretty much all the Southeast, all the way over to Texas.
That is correct.
Now that's a big transportation area as other parts of the U.S. are, but that's a huge transportation area. And I am sure you get quite a few requests for those type of risks to be placed.
Yes, transportation, commercial auto throughout the country is a very distressed market right now. There are fewer and fewer carriers that are operating in that space. And we happen to be one of the MGA wholesalers that offers We Insure franchise agents an outlet for some of those risks that they aren't placing with their direct contracts.
And there you go. And that's very important for people to understand, right? It's not like some people don't have access. It's the fact that these are very specific and niche areas that you may not have an expertise in, you may need advice on, and you may need to place somewhere. And that's where you come in, Connor. So this is fantastic. And you gave me some feedback, some rundown we did yesterday. So I'd love to talk about that a little bit. I know you don't write a few things, right? So I know you don't, and these are kind of interesting, right? You don't write prisoner transport, and you don't write duck boats. So tell us a little bit about that.
So those are some extremely difficult classes. The duck boats are the amphibious vehicles where they tour in downtown metropolitan areas, and then they drive them into the water, typically lakes or intercoastal type water, to take you on a tour of the waterfront. And they're very interesting. They're very unique. Unfortunately, not from an auto standpoint, but rather the navigation and the water standpoint, the operators over the last couple of years, there have been some sensational claims and some sensational disasters with, unfortunately, tragic loss of life. And due to the very small number of duck boat operators that are out there and the size and the scope of some of those losses, it's a class of business that we've just stayed away from. The same could be said for prisoner transport. They are a class of business when there is a minor accident. Unfortunately, incarcerated individuals have a lot of time on their hands, and they will file numerous pieces of litigation and attempts to try to reach higher settlement dollars. And so for that reason, those two classes are classes of business that we stay away from or not interested in.
Well, let me tell you, interesting material we bring every single time, but it's fascinating to find out kind of what to avoid. And a public service announcement: if you're about to ride a duck boat, if it can't be covered, might be a problem, right? There may be too much danger out there, so avoid the duck boat if you can.
Yes.
So the other thing, so what classes, we talked about yesterday a little bit, so what classes of business are really on fire for you? What do you see a lot of?
So we're focused on long haul trucking. So trucks that are traveling across state lines, that are delivering pretty much any class of cargo, but are going across multiple states or just driving out of their garage state into other states. We want to see the ones that are the new venture, that have drivers that have driven for another company, but have gone out on their own, or even newly licensed CDL drivers. We see a lot of those. We right now are seeing a lot of dump trucks, which are hauling sand and gravel, and then a lot of flatbed operations hauling construction material or contractors' equipment. Right now, with the housing market kind of on fire, as many new homes are being built, we're seeing a very, very high demand for construction material to move around the country along with equipment. I think that this class is going to continue to grow, especially with the pending infrastructure bill that is pending in Congress. That class is going to only grow from here.
Fantastic. And you do stuff that's not just, you do stuff that's on the water as well, right? Not avoiding just duck boats, but you also do jet ski rentals, airboat tours. Those are interesting categories. But no on the parasailing. So there's not that many parasailing groups out there. But no to the parasailing. Again, public service announcement. But the yes to the jet ski rental companies and yes to the airboat tours.
Airboat tours. We do handle a lot of those. We do a lot of what we call hot shots. So individuals that are transporting boats or that are hauling cars from auction house to auction house. But yeah, there's a very wide class that we will insure. And while it may be something that is unique to one of your franchisee locations, we've probably seen it a few times. So we would encourage them, if they have something that comes across and they're just not sure the right questions to even ask the client, pick up the phone and give us a call, and we're happy to walk you through. We pride ourselves on being an expert in this class, and we can easily give you the questions that you need to go out to that client, find the information that you need the first time you visit them, and get an app and get a quote rather quickly.
So another couple of areas which I had made notes on here was, taxis, limousines, large limousine companies, and also the charter buses, the big charter buses. Obviously, in most of the states where it's very tourist driven, you're going to see a lot of those charter buses as well. So from an agent perspective, it's great to know who to talk to and what they're looking for.
The public auto or the livery space was probably one of the transportation specific classes that was most affected by the pandemic.
Yeah.
And those classes are slowly coming back. The charter buses are, for the most part, a lot of the risks that we saw that were charter bus focused transported people from the airport to the cruise terminals. And because the ports and the cruise ships have not started sailing again in a large capacity, those risks are probably still parked right now. But there is a lot of potential for those risks to come back into the market very quickly once those cruise ships really start sailing, hopefully sometime closer to the end of the year.
That's what it looks like to me. And the last topic I had, and we talked a little bit about this and how it affects everybody, was, there's some instances where people run into what you call a nuclear verdict, right? So there's instances out there where risk comes out and it's so risky that you can't really do anything with it after a certain point. But tell us a little bit about, what is a nuclear verdict when you see it out there and when you see the signs on the side of the road and in your city, and how does it affect everybody?
Yeah, so nuclear verdicts are verdicts that we track that are $10 million and larger. Most commercial auto carriers are carrying at least $1 million in liability coverage. And recently, some of the verdicts coming out of trial have blown through those limits, exceeded them. Florida, over the last 16, 17 months, has experienced what we call 2 nuclear verdicts. We had one over in the Panhandle several months ago that was about a $400 million nuclear verdict. And then just recently out of Nassau County, we had a nuclear verdict that was almost $1 billion. It is unlikely that those dollar amounts are going to be collectible, but it still drives a lot of lawsuit activity and court activity on commercial auto accidents, which in turn increases the rate that commercial auto insurers are charging for these classes of business. We've worked with the legislature the last couple of years to try to address some of this, but I think we are a long way away from any kind of reform or meaningful change that's going to provide rate relief for commercial auto.
Well, that is fascinating. I know that happens, especially on the property side as well, right? With homes, when you see a lot of hail damage come through, and then all of a sudden everybody gets a new roof, and you're like, it's great. And then all of a sudden your carrier dropping you, or the rates go up 50%, and people are like, man, I can't believe it. I think you can. I think it's a direct correlation to how many lawsuits and how many things are happening that ends up with that type of an increase. So that is fascinating. So as a last plug here, Connor, who do you want to see? Who's calling you? How can they use you?
We want to see the retail agents that are looking at commercial transportation classes and they're not fitting with their direct carrier partners. That could be for a whole host of reasons. It could be rapid growth within the risk. It could be the risk is new venture. It could be the risk doesn't really have a defined operation that your direct carrier is comfortable with. And so those are the classes. Those are the retailers, when they see those classes or they see those kinds of risks, we want them to pick up the phone and give us a call or send us the application and let us take a look at it. If you have an account that has been with one of your direct markets, it's being offered renewal terms, those need to stay there. They don't need to come into our shop. We really want to see the ones that are a little hairier, that are a little more challenging to write, or that they're just not finding the coverage forms or the limits that they're looking for. We can also do excess liability. So if you have clients that are looking for limits higher than $1 million, if they're looking for 2 million, 3 million, 5 million, or 10 million, those are probably not going to fit within your direct contracts. We'd love to take a look at those.
Fantastic. And one of those points you made, I want to make sure we reiterate that it's sometimes the growth in that class. So they may decide to put 2 more trucks on the road. They only had 2 trucks. They grew that much. And all of a sudden, the direct carrier may say, whoa, that's more than we expected. And so you're not going to get coverage.
They could be a fantastic operator, and they just have grown because there's demand for goods to be moved across the country right now. And so they may have come into a direct market with 2 trucks. They may have grown. The growth is a statistical model, and so it's more than 50% growth. They may get offered a non-renewal notice, and we would love to take a look at them and place those risks.
Well, that is fantastic. We're running it right across the bottom so everyone can see. They need to get a hold of you. They obviously can work through us and through you at Reinsure. Connor, I sincerely appreciate you joining me today and educating us a little bit on that transportation arm.
We appreciate the time. Thank you.
You got it. Have a great day.